Janelle studied for weeks, showed all her work, and yet she was accused of cheating. The real shock? She wasn't the only one who scored high, but she was the only student singled out. Janelle Carter had always been the kind of kid who sat up straight, finished her homework early, and quietly said, "Thank you," when someone handed her a pencil. Quiet, thoughtful, always 10 steps ahead. Her favorite sound was a fresh sheet of notebook paper sliding across her desk. What she hated most was being underestimated. That Tuesday morning at Bayview Middle School in Modesto, California, room 214 felt heavier than usual. It was the day of the final algebra test. Heads were down, pencils tapping nervously, the silence broken only by the occasional cough. Everyone had been talking about this test for days. Mr. Douglas Whitmore, the math teacher known for his sharp jaw and even sharper tongue, had a reputation. No one aced his test on the first try. But Janelle came prepared. She had spent 3 weeks reviewing every formula, theorem, and question from the study packet, practicing every night with her mom, Erica Carter, an ex-teacher who now worked full-time at a community center. 30 minutes in, Janelle's pencil stopped moving. She checked her answers once, twice, then slid the test forward with quiet confidence. "Finished already?" Mr. Whitmore's voice cut through the room, louder than necessary. Janelle nodded softly. He stood, walked over, and took her test like it was a fake bill. Flipping through the pages, his eyes never blinked. "Janelle, stay after class," he said flatly. Whispers started to swirl behind her. The sound of pencil scratches faded, replaced by sideways glances and subtle smirks. She sat frozen, staring at the corner of her desk, wondering what she'd done wrong. The bell rang. Everyone packed up and stretched. Janelle stayed. Mr. Whitmore closed the door and pulled a chair across from her. "I'm going to be direct," he said, arms crossed. "These answers are too good, too perfect. You didn't do this alone." Janelle blinked. "Excuse me?" "I've taught this material for 15 years, he said. "Not a single student has ever scored 100% on this test, not without help. But I studied. Don't lie." Her mouth fell open, but no sound came out. Her chest tightened. "I'm required to report any suspected cheating to administration," he continued, matter-of-factly. "You'll be hearing from the assistant principal soon." Janelle sat stunned, gripping the chair. "But I didn't cheat, I swear." Mr. Whitmore stood. "If you didn't, you have nothing to worry about." His words stung more than the accusation. She didn't even know how to leave. The hallway stretched endlessly as she walked out slowly. By lunchtime, the story had spread around the cafeteria. She got caught cheating. "No way, Janelle?" "I heard she had the answers early. Maybe she copied from Mr. Whitmore's old tests." Janelle sat alone in the far corner. No appetite, no words, just questions. Why me? Meanwhile, across town, at a quiet desk inside a busy office, her mom was about to open an email that would change everything. Erica Wilson clicked the message open without hesitation. The subject line, concern regarding Janelle's test. She scanned the vague accusation twice, her brow furrowed. "Dear Miss Wilson, it has come to our attention that Janelle may have violated the academic integrity policy during this week's algebra assessment. We are reviewing the matter and will contact you for a conference. No proof, no details, just an accusation written like a final verdict." Erica stood up, no longer needing coffee. Her phone buzzed. Janelle was calling between classes, something she never did. "Mom," Janelle's voice was small. "I got the email." Erica's tone softened, steady but sharp like a flat blade. "Tell me what happened," Janelle tried to explain, voice shaky. "I didn't cheat, I swear. He just said my answers were too good. That's it." Erica looked out the window, tapping her finger thoughtfully. "Did you use your phone? Notes? Anything?" "No, Mom. You watched me do those practice tests every night." They weren't going to let this slide. Meanwhile, at school, Janelle's day was falling apart. She'd never felt eyes on her like this before. Not curious, but judgmental, like everyone had already made up their minds. Near the lockers, she overheard two girls whispering, "She just wants to look smart." She's not even that good at math. Yeah, and Mr. Whitmore doesn't mess around. If he says she cheated, then she cheated. Turning a corner, Janelle bumped into Malik, a boy from her science class who usually joked around with her. "Oh, hey," he said, voice stiff. "You good?" "Yeah," she replied, confused. "Just heard stuff," he muttered. That said enough. Janelle walked away. The only place that still felt normal was her last class, language arts. Miss Brewster greeted her with a smile, no judgment, just a simple, "Hey, Janelle," like nothing had changed. But even then, a few classmates' eyes lingered longer than usual. That night, Erica pulled out a thick manila folder from her kitchen cabinet, laid it flat, and began sorting through practice tests, notes, quiz results, tutoring logs, all carefully saved like receipts. Janelle sat across from her. "Why do you keep all this?" "Because I know how the world works," Erica said. "Some people don't give you the benefit of the doubt. They've already made up their minds, so you keep your proof. You build your case before they build theirs." "But he's the teacher," Janelle said doubtfully. "They'll believe him." Erica paused, then leaned in. "Maybe, but I don't care if he's been teaching for 30 years or 30 minutes. No one gets to throw dirt on your name just because your answers were too perfect." She snapped the folder shut. "We're going to the school tomorrow. You let me do the talking." The next morning, they weren't the only ones heading to Bayview Middle with something to say. The front office smelled faintly of old carpet and coffee as Erica walked in. Janelle right behind her, the manila folder clutched like a briefcase. Erica didn't wait for a greeting. "I'm here to speak with Principal Dalton, or whoever's in charge of this nonsense about my daughter cheating." The secretary blinked twice, then typed something. "One moment, ma'am." Erica gave a tight nod. "Not ma'am, Miss Wilson." Within minutes, they were called into a small conference room. Inside sat Mr. Whitmore, arms crossed, eyes cold. Next to him, Ms. Valenzuela, the assistant principal, smiled politely, but the tension was obvious. "Miss Wilson," she began, "thank you for coming. We want to talk through some concerns." "I'm not here for vague concerns," Erica cut in. "I want specifics. Accusing a student of cheating is serious, especially with no proof." Mr. Whitmore finally spoke. "Your daughter turned in a test with every answer correct, not a single mistake. That's unusual." "She studied," Erica said plainly, "with me every night. Want timestamps? I have screenshots, old quizzes. They're all in this folder." She slid it across the table. He didn't even open it. "It's not just the score," he continued. "It's how she answered. She used a method I only taught once months ago. Not many students remember it." Janelle spoke softly but clearly. "You taught it in November. I remember because it was the week before Thanksgiving break. You called it the cleaner way to solve slope-intercept problems." There was a pause. Mr. Whitmore said nothing. Ms. Valenzuela tried to ease the silence. "We appreciate you bringing this documentation. No decision has been made yet." But Erica cut in again. "You called it cheating without checking, without talking to us first. You're treating her like a problem just because she knew the answers. Tell me, Mr. Whitmore, is it that hard to believe a black girl can be brilliant without suspicion?" The room fell silent. Mr. Whitmore shifted but remained silent. Ms. Valenzuela exhaled slowly. "We will take all of this into consideration. Thank you for bringing it to our attention. We'll contact you by the end of the week." Erica stood and Janelle followed quietly. As they reached the parking lot, Erica turned to her. "You okay?" "I don't know," Janelle whispered. "Well," Erica said, opening the car door, "you will be." That afternoon, word spread that Janelle's mom had come to the school. Some students whispered she'd gone off. Others said she brought lawyers. None of it was true, but it didn't matter. Even some teachers began to notice. Miss Brewster caught Janelle after class and gently said, "If you need anything, I'm here." Mr. Cohen, her science teacher, asked, "You hanging in there?" For the first time all week, someone believed her. No folder of proof needed. But the school wasn't just waiting for the week to end. Someone had already started digging through the numbers the very next morning. Tucked away in a small office near the teacher's lounge, Stephanie Holt tapped her pen against the keyboard. As the school's data specialist, she was mostly invisible to students and parents, unaffected by hallway gossip. But Stephanie had heard the whispers, and she didn't like what she was hearing. Ms. Valenzuela had quietly asked her to pull the algebra test scores from all 3 8th-grade math classes to check for any irregularities. No one told her exactly what to look for, but Stephanie already had a suspicion. She opened the test records and saw Janelle Wilson's perfect 100%. Then she checked Isaiah Dorsey with 96%, Layla Reyes at 98%, and Hannah Lynn also at 100%. Scrolling through 10 more, 7 students had scored 90 or above. That wasn't unusual. What was strange was that only Janelle had been accused of cheating. Opening a second window, Stephanie compared the questions Janelle answered correctly with the others. She studied the problem-solving methods students had used. Sure, Janelle used the less common, cleaner method, but so did 2 other students. Not only that, but Janelle showed every step clearly. No signs of copying, no duplicated patterns, no hint of dishonesty. Stephanie leaned back, staring at her screen. Then why was Janelle the only one flagged? She opened her email and started typing. Subject: Algebra Test Score Review. Discrepancy noted. To Principal Dalton, AP Valenzuela, District Academic Integrity Officer. After reviewing the algebra test data, I found multiple students scored within the same range and used similar problem-solving methods as Janelle Wilson. No statistical anomalies justify singling out one student for misconduct. I recommend clearing the accusation and reminding staff about fair evaluation practices. Stephanie Holt clicked send. Meanwhile, Janelle sat at the back of the school library during study hall, head down, pencil barely moving. She couldn't focus or eat, her classmates' voices echoing in her mind. She checked her phone under the table, a message from her mom. Hang in there. I'm proud of you no matter what. That helped a little. Back in room 214, Mr. Whitmore sat at his desk during planning, staring at Janelle's test once again. Her handwriting was neat, every step clear. No smudges, no reports of cheating or glances from other students. Still, he couldn't shake the feeling that maybe he'd missed something, or maybe added something that wasn't there. He flipped through other tests, a 96% with messy work but right answers, an 89% with clear steps but a different method. Then Hannah Lynn's perfect 100%, who'd used the same shortcut as Janelle, and he hadn't questioned her. He leaned back, throat dry. Was this about more than just the test? Just then, a knock. Ms. Valenzuela entered, holding a folded printout. Got a minute? He nodded. She sat down and laid the paper before him, Stephanie's email. He read it twice. She's clean, Valenzuela said quietly. We owe her an apology. Doug didn't answer right away. Doug, she added firmly, this can't just disappear. He nodded, the kind of nod that means you've run out of excuses. But apologies don't erase the damage. The next morning, just before second period, Janelle's name echoed over the intercom. Janelle Wilson, please report to the main office. Every head turned, whispers spread. Janelle looked up, eyes wide. Slowly, she closed her binder and walked out, silent as she passed through the halls. At the front office, Ms. Valenzuela waited, her expression softer than before. Hi, Janelle. Can you come with me for a moment? Janelle followed her into Principal Dalton's office. He stood behind his desk. Mr. Whitmore sat quietly in a chair, a paper resting on his lap. Have a seat, the principal said. Janelle sat stiffly across from him. We've reviewed everything, he began. Your test, your previous scores, your mother's documentation, and an independent report from our data specialist. Janelle's heartbeat quickened. You did nothing wrong, he continued. Your test was completely valid. You're a strong student, and your answers were your own. There was a pause. Mr. Whitmore cleared his throat and finally looked up. Janelle, I want to apologize. The room felt tight. She looked at him, unsure what to say. I made an assumption based on how quickly you finished the test and how precise your answers were. I was wrong. He exhaled deeply. Expectations had clouded his judgment. Janelle's hands were folded tightly in her lap. She didn't know whether to cry, nod, or speak, so she did none of those things. Principal Dalton leaned forward. "We're clearing this from your record. It won't follow you in any way." Janelle nodded slowly. "You're welcome to return to class," Valenzuela added. Janelle stood, but before leaving she turned back and asked, "Is anyone going to say anything to the other students?" Dalton paused. "We hadn't planned to, but we can discuss how to address it." Janelle just looked at him, then walked out. She wasn't angry, not yet, but the silence felt like another kind of punishment. At lunch, she sat alone at her usual table. She didn't even open her tray, just watched. A few classmates glanced her way, but no one spoke. Finally, Hannah Lynn came over and sat down. "Hey," she said softly, "that was messed up, what he did." Janelle looked at her. "You used the same method I did." "I know," Hannah said. "I got 100 too." Janelle blinked. "He didn't say anything to you?" Hannah shook her head. "Not even a good job." Janelle looked down at her tray. "It's not fair," Hannah added. "No, it's not." Later that day, during 6th period, Miss Brewster handed back essays, slipping a note under Janelle's paper. "You handled this week with more grace than most adults I know. Never let anyone dim your light." For the first time in days, Janelle smiled. That night, Erica got a call from Principal Dalton. "I wanted to let you know the steps we're taking," he explained. "We're sending a letter home to parents, committing to fairness and bias training for staff. We'll also hold a student forum." Erica didn't gush or say thank you. She simply said, "Good, keep going." In the days that followed, something unexpected happened. Other students started coming forward. It began with a single email, then 2 more, and then a handwritten note slid under Ms. Valenzuela's office door, signed only with initials. In the wake of Janelle's vindication, the silence that once protected Mr. Whitmore's authority began to crack. Quietly, then steadily, students who'd once whispered in hallways started speaking up. Isaiah Dorsey asked to meet Ms. Valenzuela during lunch. "I didn't think about it before," he admitted. "But yeah, I scored a 96 and used the same method Janelle did. He just said, 'Nice job, that's it.'" "Did he ever question your score?" Isaiah shook his head. "Not once." Then Layla Reyes said something similar. So did Andrew Burns. One by one, students shared that they'd used that exact shortcut Mr. Whitmore called too advanced. They scored high. None were accused of cheating, except Janelle. Ms. Valenzuela wrote everything down. Dates, names, statements. She didn't say it aloud, but the pattern was clear, and it didn't look good. Back in class, Janelle kept her head down, answering questions when called but with a flat voice. She wasn't cold, just tired, worn thin by carrying a weight too heavy for too long. But during 3rd period on Thursday, something changed. Mr. Whitmore handed out a pop quiz. Groans filled the room. He paused at Janelle's desk for a moment. Their eyes met. For once, his gaze held no suspicion, just something else. Maybe guilt, maybe awareness. After the quiz, as students turned in their papers, one kid in the back raised his hand. Not Janelle, not Isaiah. It was Darnell Hart, a kid who barely passed anything and usually kept to himself. "Yo, Mr. Whitmore," he said loud enough for the class to hear. "Just want to make sure you don't think I cheated if I actually do good today." Some kids laughed, a few didn't. Mr. Whitmore said nothing, but the moment hung heavy in the air. After class, Hannah approached Janelle again. "You okay?" Janelle shrugged. "Getting there?" "They're talking about having a forum," Hannah said, "for students to share stuff about fairness, bias, that kind of thing. You going?" Hannah hesitated. "Yeah, are you?" Janelle didn't answer right away. "I might." That night, Erica sat at the kitchen table with her laptop, reading the school's new email to parents. It was decent. Said the right things, used the right words. Reflection, accountability, improvement, training. But what mattered more was what happened next. When Janelle came downstairs, Erica closed the laptop. "You don't have to go to that forum if you don't want to," she said. "No one gets to force you to share your pain." Janelle stood still. "What if I want to?" Erica looked up. "Then you do it, and you do it your way." Because speaking up was never the hard part. Knowing if people were ready to listen, that was the challenge. The multi-purpose room didn't look like much. Folding chairs, a microphone stand, a half-hearted banner above the whiteboard that read, "Let's Talk Voices of Bayview." But it was full. More students than anyone expected. Teachers too, parents, even Principal Dalton looked surprised by the turnout. Janelle sat in the middle row, hoodie up, watching the room fill. Janelle pulled her hoodie over her head. Erica sat just a few seats down, close enough to step in if needed, but far enough to let her daughter own this moment. Ms. Valenzuela welcomed everyone with a steady voice. "This is an open forum. There are no wrong words here, no punishments, just truth. You may speak or simply listen. This is your space." The first to speak was Hannah. She cleared her throat and looked right at the microphone. "I scored 100 on that test too," she said. "Used the same method Janelle did. No one questioned me. No one called me a cheater." Her words landed like a quiet slap, not loud, but sharp. She returned to her seat. No applause was needed. Isaiah went next, telling the same story, then Illa, then Andrew, then silence, that heavy kind when everyone waits for one person. Janelle slowly pulled down her hoodie and walked up. She didn't look at the crowd, only at the mic. "I didn't want to come up here," she said. "I didn't want to tell this story. I just wanted to take a test, get my grade, and go home." A few students nodded. "But when someone says you cheated because you did too well, that's not about math. That's about what they expect from you." She looked straight ahead. "I knew the answers. I studied. I worked hard, but instead of believing me, I got accused. I sat in a room while people talked about me like I wasn't even there." She glanced at Mr. Whitmore, sitting stiff in the back row, jaw clenched. "I don't want revenge," she said. "I want people to admit when they're wrong. I want teachers to check their own thinking before trying to correct ours." The room was silent. This time it wasn't heavy. It was listening. When Janelle stepped down, Erica stood, not to speak, but to gently wrap an arm around her daughter's shoulder as she returned to her seat. The forum continued for 30 more minutes. A few more students spoke. One teacher even stood and admitted, "I've overlooked students before. I don't always catch it, but I know I've done it." Finally, after what felt like forever, Mr. Whitmore stood. He walked slowly to the front, clearing his throat. "I'm not good at this," he started. "I've always thought of myself as fair, as neutral, but the truth is, I'm not." He looked at Janelle. "I saw a perfect test and assumed it had to be dishonest. But I didn't ask questions. I made a decision based on a feeling, one I didn't stop to examine. And I'm sorry." He took a breath. To Janelle, to her family, and to every student who's ever been doubted for the wrong reasons. It wasn't a grand apology, but it was real and raw. That night back home, Janelle sat at the kitchen table and opened her math notebook for the first time all week. "You sure you want to keep studying math after all that?" Erica asked, only half kidding. Janelle cracked the tiniest smile. "Yeah, I think I do." Because truth, when spoken out loud, has a way of making space where there once was silence. The following week felt different. Not perfect, not fixed, just different. Mr. Whitmore still taught algebra in room 214, but now he paused more often, listened longer, and asked questions before forming opinions. He still had his edge, but something inside had softened. Ms. Valenzuela organized monthly student roundtables where anyone could speak without needing a hall pass or a headline. A few teachers volunteered to attend, not out of guilt, but responsibility. And Janelle? She walked the halls with her head held higher. The whispers faded, the stares stopped, but most importantly, she stopped carrying the weight of their doubt. She earned every point on that test, and now, finally, everyone knew it. One quiet Saturday afternoon, Erica sat on the porch with Janelle, sipping coffee while her daughter worked on new math problems, just for fun. "You know," Erica said, "there's a lesson in all this, a hard one." Janelle looked up. "Yeah." Erica leaned back. "People will doubt you sometimes, for how you think, sometimes for how you look, but how you respond, that's where your power lives." Janelle nodded slowly. And you didn't just respond, Erica added. You stood up, told your truth, and made people listen. That's real strength. Janelle looked down at her notebook, then back up. Do you think things will actually change? Erica didn't lie. Not overnight. But you pushed the door open. Now it's on them to keep walking through. That night, Janelle opened a blank page in her notebook and wrote 3 words across the top. Know your worth, because no one else gets to define it for you. If you've ever been doubted, overlooked, or silenced, don't carry that weight alone. Speak up, document your truth, ask questions, and if you see someone else being pushed down, be the one who helps them stand back up. Share this story with someone who needs to remember, being brilliant is never a crime. And never let anyone make you feel otherwise.